I was working with a different group of people, person who was in charge of the tour would book these seedy hotels.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't do this.
Yeah.
I don't do this. I'm not comfortable with a no-tell hotel. I'm not comfortable with a hotel that has showers in the hall, community shower.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, he was coming from there. And I remember we took a 6-hour drive and we got to a rest stop and he handed everybody a bag, a brown paper bag.
Welcome to the Monique on the Mic podcast. I'm your host, Monique B. Thomas, and today I'm talking with a dear friend of mine who's also a seasoned, and I do mean seasoned, like, good kind of seasoned, spicy, tasteful, and just juicy performer, jazz singer, Denise King. Today we're going to be talking about getting started in the business, the career challenges that she's faced in navigating this music industry, and knowing your worth. Check it out. Everybody, please welcome to the show, my dear, dear friend, so super talented, Denise King. How are you, Denise?
I am doing great. Thank you. I am doing fine. I'm a little exhausted because I feel like I rode a donkey from Africa, but
You just got back from Africa, right? You're Senegal?
Senegal, yes. I was in Sali, and I did a huge concert in Saint Louis. Wow. And and I just got back. I think it was Sunday. I'm still a little loopy, loopy. You know how it is.
I do. Mama be moving. Listen, you stay gone. In fact, when you say you're back, I don't know if you're in Philly or if you're in Paris.
I am in Philly right now. Right now I'm in Philly, and I'm actually going to be here for a little bit, just a little bit. I'll be here until I think the end of July, but you know how stuff happens. It changes
all the time.
Things come in and you go, but I'm actually trying to, slow down just a little. Yeah.
What brought that on?
Well, I mean, I decided that I was going to stop gig chasing.
Gotcha.
Because all money is not good money. And sometimes the amount of energy and travel that it takes to get from point A to point B, you have to start doing weights and balances. Does it make sense to do this for this amount of money? Especially now with mobility issues. When I travel now, I have to take a wheelchair.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I have to take a wheelchair now. So, and all of that, is related to, I think I told you, a really severe reaction to the COVID vaccine. It made me really sick and it impacted my walking. So since I took the vax, I have been struggling with mobility issues. So,
man, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. But you still be moving despite.
I'll be moving.
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to get there somehow, but I'm going to get there.
But here's the thing. You have to, in life, you have to figure out a way to work around your so-called setbacks. And they are setbacks, but you have to figure out a way to work around them, work through them, or reinvention. And so that's my motto, my credo, what I live by. I made up my mind when I developed this problem that I just wasn't going to let it stop me.
Right.
And also, if I could be an advocate for those of us with disabilities, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
And so I'm not stopping.
Right.
I'm going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off.
Till the wheels fall off.
And when the wheels fall off, I'm going to ride the rims. Okay.
She's like, I'm going to run this bad baby into the ground.
Into the
grinding halt. I hear you. It's so funny that you went into that direction, because one of the first questions I wanted to ask you was about dealing with adversity in the music business. See, this podcast is really about telling different stories about singers, about musicians, about artists, so that my listeners can hopefully feel a little less alone when, somebody comes on and tells a story that they can relate to. And it's like, oh, I went through that too. How did they get through it? So
Absolutely.
talk to me about dealing with adversity in the music business.
It's important, and what I've noticed is that a lot of singers, young singers in particular, are not getting the intel that they need. They're just
Mm,
not getting the information that they need to navigate through this business. I have a student, a vocal student
mm-hmm,
that I work with, and she was in a situation where she was having a problem with adversity. She was having a
mm-hmm,
problem with her hotel room,
mm-hmm,
and she reached out to me and didn't know exactly how to deal with it. I said, well, this is when you put your diva hat on.
mm-hmm.
When you have a problem with your hotel room, you don't have to accept it.
Right,
You go to the front desk and you inform them that there's a problem, and her problem was a serious problem, I might add. And you
mm,
inform that I'm having a problem with my room. Please locate me, move, take me to another room,
right,
relocate me to another room.
right,
And she had a little problem with that. And I told her, you put on your diva hat. You don't have to accept things just because, and don't be afraid. Well, if I say something, I might lose the contract.
right,
Your well-being is equally as important as that contract, and you have to
right,
act accordingly. Then she had a problem with one of the musicians.
mm-hmm,
The musician who was actually the band leader went on vacation for a month
mm-hmm,
and sent her someone who was not what she anticipated him to be. And
mm-hmm.
so she had problems with him playing the wrong chords, playing the wrong keys.
Oh,
That's when you have to become vocal and you tell them, listen,
mm,
you're in the wrong key, you're playing the wrong changes. You need to correct this. If we have to have a separate rehearsal to get this together, then that's what we have to do. And
right,
then have a conversation with the person who sent that person and let them know that this is unacceptable. I don't work like this.
right,
I can't
right.
I can't work with someone who's playing the wrong. So basically what I'm saying is that you have to be vocal. You
Yeah,
can't be afraid to ask for what you need and then
right,
for what you want.
right, right.
Y-
It's
y-
interesting for singer, just have to tell a singer to be vocal when it comes to the outside of singing, the part that's outside
Right.
of singing.
But it's
Right.
about it's so much, it's so further and far beyond just singing. It's the business of singing as well. And
Mm,
knowing how to navigate these different situations that arise. You have to know how to do it. Even on the bandstand, you
right.
have to know how to discreetly
Mm-hmm.
tell a musician you're playing the wrong changes
Right.
or layout.
Right.
Layout.
Right.
You're playing the wrong, or how to gracefully bow out of a tune if it's not going
The
right.
way. Right.
Yeah, the way that it should go. You have
Yeah.
to know how to navigate through all of that stuff. And it's so far beyond singing. It's all of those little things that come up, even as it pertains to harassment
Mm.
and safety. You
Yep.
have to know how to navigate through those situations when they arise, because
Yep.
they will arise.
Yeah. The longer you do this thing called music, you're gonna see a little bit of everything. How do you feel like you learned the stuff you said that singers aren't getting their information? Is it because they're not doing their due diligence, or it's just they don't have a mentor, or what do you think about that?
I don't think it's due diligence. I think that some things are in the moment. Some things happen on the spot in real
Mm-hmm.
time. And
Mm-hmm.
so you learn that way. That's how I learned. I learned in real time. I learned
Mm-hmm.
by going through these certain situations and having to deal with them. I'll give you a
Mm-hmm.
classic. I'll tell you a cautionary tale.
Okay.
In 2013, I signed to a label. We were doing great and climbing with the musicians. And it just so happened that this is important. Someone asked me to come to France
Mm-hmm.
to do some performances. what they said is, if you can get here, I can help you find work. Now, does that suggest to you ownership?
No.
No, it does not. So
No.
I said, okay, what do I have to lose? If I can get there, this person is going to help me find work. And I did. I pawned jewelry. I sold electronics. I did whatever I had to do to buy myself a round trip ticket and get an apartment and come to Paris. I did that. And in fact, this individual did help me find work. But at some point, it turned into, I own you. You can't work with anybody outside of me. You cannot work with anyone without me, period. And it became very, go ahead.
Oh, no, I cut you off. Go ahead. And it became very
ugly and contentious because different people, and I learned this after the fact, different people went to him and asked him or told him that they had a gig for me and they wanted me to do this performance, blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, not without me. She's not doing anything without me.
Wow. Now, did you have a contract with him?
No,
a written contract?
No, I did not.
Okay.
There was no contract involved, but I had to navigate through that. And ultimately what ended up happening was this individual blackballed me, which made it impossible for me to get work anywhere. So I had to figure out a way to navigate through all of that. And those kinds of things come up. Be clear. Be clear in your relationships with musicians. Be clear in your relationships with promoters, producers. Be clear so that you won't run into a problem like that, because musicians can be really vindictive. They can be hateful. They can be spiteful, vindictive. They can be all of that. And you have to be able to know how to navigate through that, which I did. I just ended up kind of forming alliances with people that didn't particularly care for this person.
Okay.
And was able to, after 2 years, rebuild my career.
Right.
And it took a long time. It was really painful. I mean, it was painful. And I'm telling this story so that people know what to look for, what to accept and what not to accept. And on my journey back to where I am now, I mean, I had to work for the chapeau. I had to work for the hat.
Yeah.
I worked
money in the hat. Yeah.
Yeah, I did
That's
that.
rough. That's rough.
It was rough, but it didn't stop me. It just, my attitude was, I'm going to keep fighting. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm purposed to be doing, singing music. And I'm going to keep fighting to get myself back to where I was and further. Without this, even though this person is behind the scenes trying to and succeeding in stopping me, but you have to just have an attitude that I'm going to take my little axe and I'm going to carve my own space and flip things. And that's what ultimately happened. Things turned around and here I am.
I think this is a really important conversation because we all at some point deal with so-called gatekeepers that, they get a little bit of power and then they want to abuse it and make it so that, if you don't work with me or work the way I want you to work, I will keep you from working anywhere. But we have to remember that this planet is large and wide. Large and wide. I mean, they might be a gatekeeper in one particular area, but they're not a gatekeeper of the planet.
Right, exactly. And just like there's a door, there's a window.
Thank you. Hello.
Just like there's a gate, there's a back door, there's a side door, there's a window, there's a upstairs window, there's a downstairs window. Okay, you might keep this gate, but you have to understand that there's somebody out there who's willing to work with you and who's not a gatekeeper, and your charge is to find that person. Right. Or that person may be you. You may have to, because what I did, I created a lot of my own situations. I produced some of my own shows.
Right.
And that helps. So you have to kind of make up your mind. how you going to navigate through those types of situations, because there are gatekeepers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like, I'll give you another classic story. So there
Sure.
was a venue that I had been trying to get into for years. At least I had performed at this space before. It was amazing. It was, capacity, audience, and it was well received. But the people who were in charge of booking changed. That person changed.
Okay.
And so there was a new person at the helm. And that person was a friend of a person who didn't particularly care for Denise.
Okay.
And so I kept trying and trying to get into this space and couldn't do it. It just wasn't happening. And then by some miracle, the gatekeeper, if you will, changed. Another person that I knew came in and took that spot, the position in charge of hiring and firing. Yeah, booking. And I knew this person. And initially when she heard me sing, she kind of was singing with somebody. I was way outside of my lane, if you will. I sing everything, but this particular performance was not necessarily what I do. And she wasn't impressed. And I read her body language, and I could tell when I said to her, "Hey girl, how you doing? I'm interested in performing." And she was like, "Well, I've got to look at the calendar and see what I have happening." And we know what that means.
We know what that means. It's like, that's don't call us, we'll call you, and we won't call you.
Exactly. That's code,
Yeah, that's code.
I've got to look at the calendar and see what I have happening, and and I'll let you know. And I was like, yeah, okay. But then divine providence, fate, whatever, call it what you will. Another friend who happened to be a musician invited me to come and sing a couple of songs with him in this venue.
Right.
And we whipped it. I mean, we lit it up. It was great. And she came back to me and said, "Oh, I got to have you here. I got to look at the calendar. I'm going to see, I got a couple of dates, and I'm going to give you." And so I got in that way.
Right.
I got in that way. She loved what I did. She did contact me. She gave me a date. And of course, it was so ironic because the same person who was the gatekeeper, she left and he came back.
Okay.
But by the time he was back, I already had the contract signed.
Right. Yeah. That's a perfect example of what is for you is for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so hard when you're young, or, your bills are off the chain, you're worried about where money's going to come from. And so, every opportunity feels like, it's life or death. And when somebody says something like, "Oh yeah, let me check my calendar and I get back to you," and you're thinking that that's a sure thing, and it really is not.
And it really is not.
It really is not. You have to put so many hooks in the water to catch even just one fish.
One fish. And that's the most important thing, is to never give up, and never give up on yourself. And let me also say this. Sometimes you have to subsidize what you're doing with another job, a part-time job. And there's no shame in
no shame. I was just about to say there's no shame.
Some artists feel like, I'm an artist, I shouldn't have to. No, if you want to survive, if you want to eat, you got to subsidize what you're doing. If you're not getting enough gigs to sustain yourself,
right,
you have to come up with a way to be able to take care of yourself. I mean, I worked in healthcare for 14 years before I made the decision to quit my job to do music full time. But whenever I'm doing master classes, etc., I always tell people there's no shame, none whatsoever, in getting a part-time job or doing something to subsidize your income. You have to do it because sometimes the gigs are not coming in and you have to do something else. You just have to.
Yeah.
But
I think it comes down to knowing yourself well enough to know what kind of lifestyle you can live and be okay with it. You know what I mean? Like I know some people here, for example, in France. I live in France, and they can live off of ramen noodles and an apartment that's hardly heated, and they'd be fine with that. Hell no.
I
I
can't
need a
do it.
warm apartment and I need decent food because I'm a foodie. I don't need luxury, but I do need comfort. And so my
Right.
notion of comfort and that those are non-negotiable things for me. So I know that the money that I have to bring in has to sustain that in order for Monique to be okay. Because if I'm not okay, when I get to the place where I have to sing, it's not going to be okay. I'm not
You're
okay.
not going to
So
be
yeah,
good.
I'm going to be able to give my best. So knowing what it is you need in order to function well, I think is key to navigating through this life as an artist, you
Oh,
know?
absolutely. You have to know yourself and you have to know what you need. The last tour that I went, now I'll say last year, I
Mhm.
was working with a different group of people, and um, you know, this person who was in charge of the tour
Mhm.
would book these seedy hotels.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't do this.
Yeah.
I don't do this. I'm not comfortable with uh a no-tell hotel. I'm not comfortable with a hotel that has showers in the hall, community
Oh hell
showers.
no. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I mean, he
No.
was coming
No.
from there. And I remember we took a 6-hour drive.
Right.
Um, and we got to a rest stop and he handed everybody a bag, a brown paper bag. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like a lunch stop. And he handed everybody a brown paper. And then this brown paper bag was a dried up, dusty pretzel. And I said, what is this? He said, I got you something. I said, got me something. I said, this is a pretzel. Is
Yeah.
this lunch? Is this lunch?
Right.
So in his mind, and it also tells you what
Mm-hmm.
people think of you.
About you. Thank you.
It tells you what people think about you. If he
Yeah.
thought I was going to be okay with a dried up, dusty German Bavarian pretzel, I
Mm-hmm.
just looked at him. I said, no, I'm good. I'll buy my own lunch. Thank you
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
much. These little seedy hotels and things. I don't do that.
It's really telling, as you say, how people treat you in this business if you let them. If you let them.
If you let
Um,
them.
because it's like people don't understand that when you're on the road, the most tiresome thing is the road. It's not the stage. It's
No,
everything
it's
that comes before and everything that comes after you hit. Hitting is the easiest thing because we've been doing it for a long time and we could do it in
right.
our sleep. We could do it if our foot was hurting or whatever. And we've done it when
And
something
we've
was
done
hurting.
it.
And,
Absolutely.
but before the getting there, because usually, people are also buying, and I'm going to say it this way, cheap ass flights, cheap accommodations. And it just feels like, of somebody's being violent towards you. It's
It
like
does.
I've got to navigate these flights that are horrible. They're red eye or there's hardly any time in between them. I'm most likely going to miss my flight. And if I make my flight, my bag is not going to make it, which means that when I get to where I need to get to, when I get
You
to the
won't
hotel, I'm
have
not
what
going to
you
have my
need.
comforts. I won't have what I need. And it's just a
Right.
headache. And then you're going to expect me to, dance, clown, dance, to get on stage and be the wonderful person that you hired me for. And it's like,
And it's
I can't do that.
because you're a professional,
Yeah.
because we're professional, and I've had this happen. I mean, because we're professional, and my audience should never suffer
No,
because of what I had to deal with. I'm going to give my audience the absolute
absolutely.
best that I have to give them, even though my luggage was lost, even though somebody handed me a dry, dusty pretzel, even
Yeah.
though I had to sleep in a raggedy ass, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say bad words,
It's okay.
hotel. I'm going to give my audience 100% no matter what.
Right.
But it speaks to how a person sees you, what they think
Yeah.
that you'll put up with. And a lot of times what I learned is it has nothing to do with, and sometimes people will book these cheap flights and
Mhm.
hotels so they can have more money in their pocket.
In their pocket.
And that's what happened.
Meanwhile, compromising your well-being. It's like, you do understand that if I'm well taken care of, I will sing better. I mean, I'm going to sing well anyway. But if I'm
Right.
well taken care of, I'll sing better and our relationship is going to be better. But if I see that you're always lowballing everything and you're getting the cheapest of everything, look, we all know that but money is tight. We know that prices have gone through the roof for everything. We all know that. But when you're constantly booking the cheapest thing
Right.
and
That's your MO.
jeopardizing, yeah, if that's your MO, you know what? We can't work together because I deserve better. Because I know one
Right.
thing. I know one thing. It's like when you and we walk in that room and we walk on that stage, we're going to tear the house down
We're going to
down
do
to
what
the
we
ground.
do.
We're going to do what we
Right.
do. And so it's like, please facilitate that. Don't make it hard on me. Facilitate that. Take care of me because I'm going to take care of you. I'm
Because
going to
I'm
make
going to
you
take
look
care of
good.
you. Exactly.
Right.
And
I'm going to make you look good about your choice to hire me and to rehire me.
so therein lies the lessons for singers, young and old singers. Don't let anybody lowball you. Don't let it. I did it. I mean, I'm guilty. I've given people too much power over me in a lot of
Yeah.
different circumstances.
Yeah.
Recently, I allowed someone carte blanche. Because I don't speak French fluently. And
Yeah.
I allowed this person, I said, okay, you speak the language, you handle all the details, but in giving them the power to handle all the details, they were taking
Yeah.
money, they were
Oh,
lowballing, they were
yeah.
choosing this. There's no reason why I should have been in a car if there was a flight available for 6
Okay.
hours, and there was a flight available.
Oh, no.
He just didn't want to pay for the flight.
Yeah. 6
And
hours. Like that 6 hours sitting is more tiring than
yeah,
3 hours singing,
but if you
you know?
have to do it, because in all fairness, in Africa, there we had to take a drive. We had to drive from Sali to
Mm-hmm.
Saint Louis, and that's like
Yeah.
a 5 hour drive. But there's no flight,
Right.
so we
Right.
had to.
Well, that's different, but that's different.
That's
That is
different.
different. And it does, your mindset shifts when you know that, hey, I'm going to a remote place, a place that most people can't get to
Right,
or won't get to because of, where it is. That shifts in your mind. But if it's like a standard place to get to and you can get there easily, but they've made it hard for you,
right. It's
that'll
like
piss you off. That's like,
really
nah,
piss you
you
off.
really actually don't care about me. This is just a business transaction for you. But this is not just, when we perform, it's not just a business transaction. Unless it is, because sometimes, let's be fair, sometimes we accept gigs because we need the money and it is a
Exactly.
business transaction.
It's a business transaction.
But those are choices we make. When somebody
Right.
makes that choice for us, that's abuse.
That's abuse, exactly. And I mean, I guess what I'm saying is don't throw away your power. I tell people all the time, do not give people the keys to drive your car.
Mm-hmm.
If they're
Yeah.
not don't do it.
They'll drive it. They'll make it raggedy, man.
They'll make it real raggedy. They'll
Crash it.
take the cheapest route, buy the cheapest gas,
Mm-hmm.
take the rockiest road,
Break down the car and it's not their fault.
right. I mean, and you have to really focus on those types of things. Don't give people power over you and your business. Always know. And that was my folly in my last business relationship. I gave the last two, actually, I gave people too much power and control over what was happening. And they took advantage because that's what people do sometimes. They take advantage. So I guess the lesson is to handle your business, know what's going on, speak up for yourself, know what you want, know what you don't want.
Right. Let us backtrack for a second here because I know you well, but I want to talk about the span of your career. So you've been performing for more than 40 years, if I'm not correct?
More than 40 years, yes. I stand in absolute amazement because, first and foremost, I never intended to be a singer. It's not something that was on my radar. I mean, of course, when you're young, you sing in the hairbrush, you do all that kind of business. And for me, when I was in high school, I joined the choir and things, but that was just so I could get out of biology. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a star. No, it's like, I hate math. I'm going to join the choirs.
Okay.
so Mr. Johnson can come and get me out of class.
Right.
So it was never, but amazingly, people tell me all the time, like, oh yeah, I remember you singing all the time when you were younger. And I have no recollection.
Oh,
I
wow.
really don't. I have no memory of any of that. And, but when I did, and as a matter of fact, my formal singing career started by accident.
Okay.
I
Tell
mean,
us that story.
I was single mom, raising three greedy ass sons. I said bad word again. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
These,
I'm gonna slap an E on this episode, and then so you can just speak how you
okay.
speak, Mama.
Okay, so I was raising three sons who were like human vacuum cleaners when it came to food. They ate
Stomachs with feet.
okay, they ate everything that wasn't nailed down.
Oh my-
And so I'm raising these three boys. And this one particular day, I happened to be it was spring and I was outside of my house cleaning, spring cleaning, sweeping up. You know how Philly is. You got the front porch, the stoop, or you got you have the little yard and you have like the pavement and stuff. So I'm outside cleaning, sweeping, and I was singing Summertime while I was cleaning. And a friend of mine, a guitar player, Rahman Rashid, God bless his soul, may he rest in peace.
Oh.
He was a writer and a guitar player at Philadelphia International Records. And he just happened to be walking by as I was singing. And I'd known him for years. His auntie had a store at the end of my block. I'd known him for years from him visiting his auntie's store. And he just happened to be walking by my house on 60th Street, North 60th, below Girard. And he walked by, we exchanged pleasantries. He used to call me Nee. Hey, Nee, girl, how you doing? I was like, hey. And he kept going and I'm still singing. And he got like maybe 10, 15 feet away from me and he spun around on his heels and he said, child, you can sing.
Wow.
And I said, what? He said, you can sing. Oh my God. He said, oh my God, I have a gig for you. I was like, you have a gig? First of all, what is a gig?
What is a gig? Like, I don't want it.
Right. What are you talking about? What is a gig? I don't even know he said, I have a gig for you and you need to let me audition you for this gig that I have coming up in September. And, and let me audition you and you can do this gig. And I'm looking at him like he's an alien from outer space because I don't know the lingo. I don't know what he's talking about.
Right,
but he said the magic words. And you know what they were. I will pay you.
She said, okay, say no more.
All I can see, you know how like the thing, what's it? It's a Christmas poem or something about visions of sugar plums, dancing and something. Well, I had visions of tennis shoes and more cereal and more milk and more things for these greedy sons of mine. And when he said, I will pay you, all I could think of is, oh my God, I'm going to be able to buy more food.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to be able to buy more food. I'm going to be able to buy them nicer things because he's going to pay me. And so with that, I auditioned and the first gig that I did ever, if I remember correctly, was September 24th. Let me do the math.
Wow.
It was September 24th. It was at 23rd. I think it was 23rd and Locust. And I bombed. I did.
Okay.
I was green as grass. I didn't know what I was doing. Right. I was bombed. They played the song in the wrong key and it's, oh my toy. And they looked at me like I was an alien from outer space. And I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Y'all gave me this, this position and I didn't know what I was doing. So what do you want from me?
So
So
how
go
did you
ahead.
come back from that?
Well, I didn't give up.
Mm-hmm.
He said, oh, and he was really gracious. He said, oh, don't worry about it. It was your first time.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was your first time and don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kept hiring me.
Oh, okay.
And
So despite that, he hired you anyway.
he hired me again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's working basically the Chitlin circuit,
Mm-hmm.
all the bars in Philly that had jazz. I was doing that. And and I had to leave my kids some nights to go do gigs and all that kind of stuff. Um and so it got crazy because some nights I would be out doing a gig and he wouldn't pay me. And I'd be, yeah, I mean, and that happens. That
Yeah.
happens. And and singers need to know how to navigate through that. Because
That's
sometimes
frustrating.
sometimes people won't pay you. They'll hold your money. And the club owner left before he gave him the money. And
Right.
I'm like, well, I'm out here. I got to pay a babysitter.
Right.
And so, but I subscribe to this whole notion that where you are is where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And through that association with that person, I ended up doing some recording at Philadelphia International Records. I did background
Wow.
vocals on I did demos for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Sam Reed, who was a really, really well-known band leader here in Philly. He was a band leader and orchestra leader for the Uptown Theater in Philly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he happened to come to the club while I was singing one night. I think it might have been the night that I was like, oh, you can kiss my butt. I'm not coming back here. Yeah. Yeah. And Sam was there and he called me, and Sam was like a rock star because
Mm-hmm.
he was the band leader at the Uptown Theater. If you don't know the Uptown Theater, just Google it. If I
Mm-hmm.
reference anything, just check it out online. But the Uptown Theater was like on the Chitlin circuit where all of the famous artists of the time, all the R&B, Smokey, Gladys, the Supremes, Temptations, everybody came through the Uptown, and he was the band leader. And I
Okay.
can recall being in the audience watching him lead the band and
Mm-hmm.
screaming my head off. And then here I am standing in front of this rock star who's talking about hiring me to sing with him.
Right.
So that started that relationship with him, and he started to hire me and things. And,
Mm-hmm.
a better brand of gig, more money.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I mean, and it progressed from there. And I
Can we?
worked hard.
I bet you did. Can we talk about how you moved to the next level financially? Because I think that's the thing. It's like if we're not careful, people will have us playing for the same money we played 20 years ago.
Well, and you know what? My folly is that I had been doing that because my passion is there's a duality to my passion. I love to sing, of course,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but I also love to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and my son yelled at me like, he was like, what are you doing? You can't just, you need to be making more money. You just like, you travel and you're happy that they're
Mm-hmm.
sprinkling a little money on the top.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my folly. I was like, well,
Right.
I'm staying at 5-star hotels.
Mm-hmm.
I'm flying. I don't have to buy my airline tickets. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to buy my food.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sprinkling money on the top. I'm happy. I can pay my bills. I'm good.
Right.
But the most important thing is to know your worth.
Yeah.
Know your worth. Yeah. When you start, go
No,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
When you start to recognize, how do you move to the next level? Well, sometimes it depends on the situation that you're in. Sometimes it depends on the musicians that you're working with. If you're working at a little club or a little bar, they don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of revenue. So the money is going to be a thing. But when you start to notice that people are coming to a place to see you specifically,
Right.
when you recognize that, okay, you're selling venues out, you could ask for more money, demand more money, ask for more money. Like, I'm not working for what I used to work with when I first started.
Right.
You have to put a price tag on yourself without pricing yourself out of the market.
Right.
You have to put a price tag on yourself. I will not leave my house for less than this amount of money.
Right. I think the hard thing about that is that people don't talk about money. So we don't know what the going rate is. It's really tricky. You know, I mean, I've been at this game. I've been in it for a minute as well. And, you know, you don't know who's getting what, but you do know that, you know, like you said, you have two passions. You have singing and traveling. I have three. Mine's singing, traveling, and bills being paid.
Well, there you have it.
You know, and it's like, it's such a hush hush thing that people aren't talking about it. Because people aren't talking about it, you don't know who's getting what. And so it's like hard to know what to ask for. I'm starting to like write down what I got paid the last time I was somewhere, because typically when I go somewhere, you know, I get the rave reviews and I sell my CDs, and it just goes really well typically. And so it's like, yeah, after a couple of years, it's like, hey, you know, prices are going up, so my fee should go up. And it's just normal.
And
you know what I mean?
but a lot of times club owners don't want to pay you more, because they say just as prices are going up for you, prices are going up for me.
Yeah.
And you have to negotiate. You really do. You have to negotiate what it is that you want. And you also can't be afraid to say, I pass.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
can't be afraid to say, but make sure you're in a comfortable place to be able to do that. Make sure you're in a comfortable place to be able to say, you know what, this is what I want. And, okay, we can negotiate.
Right.
We can I usually tell people, let's find a number that'll make both of us smile.
Happy. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's find a number that'll make both of us smile, because I can't, not for this. Not for this amount. But what I can say too is that although people are hush hush about what the money that they're getting sometimes, you can deduce that from some of the clubs just don't pay a lot of money. I had a club owner get really angry. This club owner he was furious with me because I had done the room. I think it was in Vienna, but I had done the room, and the room was sold out, and this person reached out to me and asked me to come back, and I said, sure, let's talk about money. And I told him what I wanted, and it wasn't a lot of money at all. He went off on me. Wow. He went completely bonkers. Who do you think you are?
How dare you, right?
How dare you? You see how small my club is, and blah, 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 blah. I was like, yo, I'm not trying to, you know, gouge you. I'm not trying to like hurt you. I'm trying to make money for myself and the band, because you're going to make money. You're going to make money from food. You're going to make money from alcohol, and you're going to make money from
the place being sold out. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just trying to be fair. Oh, he gave me the business, but you know, yeah, he did. And I was like, okay, well, fine. You know, thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it. Moving on. But again, you have to put a price tag on yourself. Know your worth. And then for a long time, I put I put the, oh, yay, I get to travel value on myself. And I was cool. I was like, I'm out of here.
But you know what? I think there's a time and place for that. I think while you're on the come up and you are younger and you are greener, there's nothing wrong with that, because my job has afforded me to go to places around the world that I may have never been able to afford to go to. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I think it's allowing you to see what it is you really want. You know, it really gets you to sharpen your vision for yourself. You know, I've done things where the pay wasn't that great, but like you said, 5-star hotels,
Right.
5-star restaurants,
It's a
and
trade-off.
kid glove treatment. And I needed to see that in order to know that that's actually what I wanted for myself.
That's what you want. And that's how it.
But you can't know if you don't do it.
If you don't do it. And sometimes I say, you know, sometimes it's not about the money. Like I just did something recently, and it was a power move.
Mm-hmm.
It was a power move. It was nothing but a power move. I took less money because I knew that it was a portal.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that it was a gateway to another opportunity.
Right.
It was a gateway to something else that I wanted. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you take less to get more.
Yeah.
Sometimes you take less to move up, but you have to recognize that when you see it.
There's definitely things to weigh in the balance. You can't just look at the numbers. You have to look at, who am I playing with? Where am I playing? What is the opportunity that's being presented here? Mm-hmm. If I'm going to be playing with people who present possible other future opportunities for me, or even just musically, I stand to learn a lot from them. Oh, I'll take less money, because I know that I'm going to grow, and that eventually those new skills that I'm going to learn will earn me more money later down the line.
Exactly. They'll take those skills will take you to another level.
Right.
They'll take you to a different place. And ultimately, that is what you want. You want to learn as much as you can, and learn from the musicians. Like a lot of singers don't, you know, there's this divide sometimes between singers and musicians.
I hate it.
But you have to be assertive and aggressive. You do. Mm-hmm. You have to partner, align yourself with a musician that's cool.
Yeah.
That can teach you, tell you, show you what you need to know. Because some musicians, they'll let you get up there and make mistakes and laugh at you behind your back. And, you know, I'm very selective. I don't read music. I do not. It's something in my wiring. It makes it hard for me to grasp the physical learning and reading of music.
Right.
But I was born with an innate gift to be able to understand music, and I have an ear. Right. So I make sure, because I've seen music, I've caught musicians laughing at me behind my back because I couldn't remember my key, or I called the wrong key. But for me, because my voice has been steadily changing for the last 6 months. I had to lower all my keys.
In the last 6 months. Okay.
Yeah. I had to, but I mean, the reality of it is I'm a woman of a certain age, and hormonally things happen. Your abilities change, and you have to adjust accordingly. So because my voice has dropped, it's deeper. It's much deeper than it was. I listen to some of my recordings when I can listen to them. And my voice is much deeper than it was, say, 10 years ago.
Okay.
5 years ago.
Right.
6 months ago.
Right.
So I've caught musicians laughing at me behind my back, and I was like, okay, I'll never work with you again.
Right.
Because I don't have to put up with that. And instead of laughing at someone, you know, try to understand their shortcomings or their weaknesses.
And work with them, because it's a team sport. Exactly. We're in this together. You know, you laughing at me, so now how am I going to feel on stage with you?
Right. But then, I mean, sometimes it's a situation where some musicians get angry or feel some kind of way because, they have all this talent, all this ability, and the singer shows up and is out front
Mm-hmm.
and maybe get more attention than they do.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like that. We all are on that stage to create something
Yeah,
together.
I talked about that on my podcast episode. I don't know the number, but with Josiah Woodson, he was talking about this divide that can happen between singers and other musicians because of it's not necessarily the fault of the singer. Often people that hire people put the singer in front and act like the other musicians don't matter, which is not fair at all. It
And
is
that's
a team
it's
sport.
not fair. It's
No, it's
not
not fair.
fair, but it's not fair, but some club owners, some promoters, some producers, the singer is the attraction.
Right.
The singer is the feature. Not saying that the musicians aren't, and usually when I'm performing, I make it a point to list the musicians who are working with me.
Of course. Of course.
List them.
Because
List
it
the
does make a
musicians.
difference.
It
It
makes a
does make a
difference.
difference.
I can't do what I do without them, but it creates some crazy energy sometimes. But I'm real selective in who, like most of the musicians that I work with, they know my shortcomings.
Okay.
I don't make it a secret. I
Right.
let them know when they start talking about, look at the chart. I'm like, for what?
Right. No, you look at it.
Is it going to do something? Like what?
Can
Look
it
at the
rub my
chart.
feet?
Right. I'm like, I don't read music. And they go,
Right.
oh, that's right. Sorry. And they'll go to the piano player will go to the piano and play it out for me, bang it out for me, do whatever they need to do to make sure that I get it or I understand it. And all the musicians, like the musicians here in Philly that I work with, I've worked with them for over 20 years.
Right.
25 years. Yeah. So they
Right.
know me and it's
Right.
and I tell people all the time, I've had some musicians get angry with me because I haven't hired them. And I just simply tell them I'm a loose cannon. You wouldn't be able to,
You can't handle this.
I would piss you off. You'd be ready to beat me up on the stage because I'm a loose cannon. I'll hand the musicians a set list.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I walk on that stage and I look at the audience, I'll tell them, we're not doing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're not doing this. This set list is not going to work because I've read and that's what I do. I read my audience. I kind of get a sense of what will work and what won't work. And that's another thing that singers should learn how to do. Learn how to read the room.
I wouldn't call that being a loose cannon. Reading the room is important because it's like you could plan something and if it's not going to work and you just, well, I planned that. And so we're just going to stick to it. And then everybody's going to have a poor time.
Right.
That's not loose cannon. Like I worked, Lee John, he's from the group, I can't think of the name of the group, but that song, hoo, 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 ha, illusions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't. Imagination is the name of the group, excuse me. So anyway, he's an incredible performer and songwriter and all that stuff. And he would, the couple times that I worked with him, he would give us a set list and it would have way more songs than we needed. Just in case he changed. And then I remember the first time I worked with him, it was like a last minute thing. It was during COVID times. And it was for the festival in Marciac because he couldn't get his regular singers to come over into France. And I was over here. So I had no rehearsal with them. But he came into our dressing room and he did get one of his singers, but I was the other one. And he came into the dressing room and he was, he just was going through the songs really quickly. And then he just comes out with a song that's not on the list. But I knew it because I listen, I'm a library of songs. And he started singing and I harmonized. I'm like, okay, what else you got?
Right.
But I get that kind of artistry because he's like, I want to know that if I go there, you're going to follow. I want to be able to do that.
It's so important. It's so important, excuse me, to work with musicians who I work with the musicians that I work with because they meet me. They're there. When I get there, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
They know where I'm going. They feel me. They understand where I'm going. They understand the route that I'm taking to get to where I'm going.
Right.
And they meet me there, or they're already there when I get there.
Right.
And that's important. You have to really have a relationship with some of the musicians that you work with so that you can create that thing, that synergy, that vibe, that special something that, that takes you to the highest heights. It's important. Right. It's important that you're on the same page and one accord,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
so important. So important.
I'm going to do something, I think it's called a fire round, because I know your time is so limited, but I have a few more questions, but I just want some really quick answers. So off the top of your head,
okay,
what is your most proud moment of your career so far?
When I created a venue, I created a jazz series, a community jazz series in West Philly for my neighbors. It was free every Friday night jazz at the Firehouse Farmers Market.
Mm-hmm.
Every Friday from 6 to 8, it was free. Mm-hmm. And I hired so many people. I kept so many people working. I kept the neighborhood entertained. I let the neighbors see who they were, that we all wanted the same things. Through that program, I created Bebop and Books, a literacy program for
Bebop and
children.
Books. I love that.
Yeah, for children and adults. It started as a program for kids. We got books and the kids could come and take books. They could trade them, whatever. But I started to notice that there was one woman who was hanging around the books, and I was like, well, does she want books? What's she doing? And what's she doing? So she finally came over to me and she said, I'm learning how to read. Can I have some books?
Oh.
And so I made it Bebop and Books for adults, for children and adults who are learning to read. So that's my proudest moment.
All right. Another question. Do you have any regrets?
No.
No regrets.
Nope.
Okay.
No regrets. I don't live in that realm. I live in the realm of if I have a regret, it's a personal regret. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with music. Regret, gotcha. Husband 1 and husband 2. How about that?
All right. Oh, I love it. What would you say is something that you wish younger Denise would have known that you know now?
I wish that younger Denise had more of a sense of her worth and her value. And better self-esteem. I'm a survivor of many things.
Yes, you are.
And when you are a survivor, it breaks you down to almost nothing. You have low opinion of yourself. I wish that the younger Denise had a higher value of self. I do. I wish she knew. I wish younger Denise knew the possibilities. I wish she knew that things were going to improve and be better, and that she was worth every good and wonderful thing.
Wow. I really love that. Now I'm going to ask you one last question. What's next? But before I ask you that question, I'm going to actually fill that in. When your damn book coming out?
Oh my God. You'd be happy to know. No,
you knew I was going to ask.
I know, but here's the thing. This is the reason why I've been having, and I had to really meditate and pray about this. The reason that I've had such a problem with this book is because the book is my life. It's very personal. I told you I'm a survivor of domestic abuse. I'm a survivor of sexual assault. I'm a survivor of homelessness. All of that is in the book, and it's very personal. And so in writing and rewriting and reading and rereading the book, it's a trigger. It triggers me.
Gotcha.
And the last thing that you want to do is go back.
Opening those wounds.
Open those wounds. Because sometimes those wounds, they smooth over, but they're still there.
Yeah.
One bad lump or a bad knock, or somebody knocks the scab off, and
Right. You're
just
bleeding
like
again.
when that whole thing with Bill Cosby came out,
Mm-hmm.
I had a moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was a huge trigger for me,
Wow.
huge trigger, because it took me back to those events, and
Mm-hmm.
then when you go back to those events, you have to navigate yourself out of that space again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I was kidnapped and held at gunpoint
Jeez.
at one point, and amazingly, I'm still here.
Yeah.
But the trauma of it all, so certain things are triggered. So the book, but you will be happy to hear that I did finally get a publisher.
Yeah.
So I'm
Okay.
taking steps
Right.
to publish the book. And actually, crazy as I am, I'm actually thinking of the name of the book is From the Bottom Up, I Made It Through the Storm.
Mm-hmm.
And so the second book, I'm actually thinking about the second book.
Wow.
It's called The Rainbow After the Storm.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
if
So
you're already thinking about the second book, the first one is coming out.
it's coming out. It's coming out. And, I have people like you, my sweetiekins,
Mm.
and my other sweetiekins, like hammering me over the head. We need your book. We need your book.
Well, it's not that, obviously, as much as I love you, it's not about me wanting you to have to um, bleed from that wound again.
No.
It's when I first met you, I met you. We did a Christmas gig together really quickly, and I immediately fell in love with you. I fell in love with your artistry, but I also fell in love with you as a human. As a fellow Philadelphian, as a strong Black woman.
Ditto.
There was nothing but love that I could possibly have for you. I'm always, I lost my mother a very long time ago when I was 18, so I'm always looking for the kinds of women that remind me of my mother because they're
Aunt
strong.
Mommy. You
And
know I'm
that's
Aunt
right.
Mommy.
Yeah, well, I always call you auntie. I'm like, hey, auntie, how you doing? And you're like, oh, it's time for that pulse check. But when
Yep.
you told me, you started to tell me about your story, I'm like, this needs to be a book because I know the power of healing that comes in the form of hearing other people's stories. And that's exactly what this podcast is
And
about.
that's what it is. And I mean,
It's about healing.
I recognize, I do, I recognize, and I'm very spiritual, and I talk to God all the time. And God told me that your book will help many people.
Yes.
Many people, because it's survivorship. It's surviving homelessness with 3 children. There are people who are dealing with that now.
Yeah.
I may have a blueprint to help them get out of that space. It's surviving domestic abuse. I may have a blueprint to help them. Well, I'll tell you one. I won't choose violence today, but I will say that I have a real strong right hook. I got a real strong right.
I won't choose violence today. Well, I'm glad you won't choose violence
today. I chose violence like some years ago when I had to sock somebody upside their head.
Yeah, but you didn't.
But it was because they socked me.
It's because they came looking for it.
Exactly.
They called for it. So
you bring some, you're gonna get some.
You don't start, no, won't be none. But the thing that I think is so special about you, there's a lot that's special about you, but especially about this book and just who you are. When I met you, you're just so full of joy. You're not just a survivor, Denise. You are a thriver because
absolutely.
Some people survive and it looks like, oh, they done been through something, and they're bitter and they're angry and rightfully so. But you got through all of the things you got through with grace, and you're still such a loving and giving person. You're not angry, and you're smarter, obviously, and better for it. But, I could always tell that there was a level of trust I could have with you. You weren't looking at me like, is she trying to hurt me? You know what I mean? Like a kicked dog, then the next person that comes by, they're like, are they going to kick me? You're not like that. And that, I think, is where the real lesson is, because not only did you get through, but you got through and kept your humanity.
Because you cannot hold the people that you meet the people who come into your life, you can't hold them accountable for things that other people did. You
Right.
know, I don't hold. I picked the wrong people. I realized that I notoriously picked the wrong people. I found myself in situations that I was in that for whatever reason I was in. It could be because when I prayed about it, some of the situations that I was in, and the Lord told me, God spoke, and some people, everybody doesn't believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Some people don't. But from my perspective, God and the universe told me that you experienced the things that you experienced firsthand so that you could be a beacon of light for somebody else.
Oh, there you go. Because you're
And you
showing people how to get through and
cannot,
how to get
you,
through and just still remain a decent human being. I
you
think that's
have to.
so key.
You can't, I mean, you could be angry, you could be bitter, you could take the things that you went through out on other people.
Yeah.
You know, you could, but what is,
What good does that do?
how is that going to serve you in any
Well, just
way?
it perpetuates, hurt people. And so
Right.
you, by being the special person that you are, you break the cycle of
But
violence.
sometimes hurt people help people.
Well, but they hurt while they're helping you. I mean, it depends on the person they're hurting, how they're able to deal with that.
Right. How you
You,
navigate through it.
you know,
Sometimes hurt people, sometimes my whole thing is like, I never want someone to experience the hurt that I experience.
sure.
So I'm going to help them navigate through
Right.
so that they don't hurt someone else.
Yeah.
You know, like somebody kicked me, so I'm going to kick you.
Right.
No, I'm not doing that.
Which is why I said, you're special, you're different because
Thank you.
you broke the circle of violence. All the things that happen to you, you don't do those things to other people.
But love is the key.
know.
Love is so powerful. Love is so strong. I'll tell you a quick story. I remember when I was doing my jazz series in West Philly,
Mm-hmm.
I learned so many lessons about humanity. And I remember that there was this one gentleman who was an obvious alcoholic. I mean, he was a fall down, stagger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, but I would see him every week. He would see me and I would give him a hug. And and some people came over, how could you hug him? Why, how could you let him touch you?
Mm-hmm.
I said, because he needs this hug more than you do.
Wow.
He needs this hug more than you do.
Mm.
You're condemning him for being where he is. And so one day, one Friday, I was going through whatever I was going through, and I was in a nasty, stanky, old funky mood. And I saw him and I didn't hug him.
Mm-hmm.
The next Friday when I saw him, he came to me and he was weeping.
Oh.
This man was crying. He came to me in tears. You didn't hug me. You didn't hug me. I don't understand why you didn't hug me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I took him and I hugged him and I said, I am so sorry. I was just dealing with some things and
Right.
you know I love you.
Mm.
And the lesson for me was simply that some people need a hug.
Yeah.
Some people just need to know that somebody cares. Somebody gives a damn about them. Can you imagine, like, all the people who are condemning me for hugging him? Can you imagine that that's what he's dealt with? That's what he deals with all the time, that kind of scorn and condemnation all the time, and how that shapes his mental about himself. And then you got one person that comes along and hugs you and makes you feel like you matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful. It's powerful.
It is powerful.
And you don't know, here's the thing, you don't know how people, like for me, being homeless, people don't know how I end up being homeless, but I was.
Right.
They don't.
Yeah.
But people are also judgmental.
Yeah.
They're judgmental. They condemn. They point fingers. They say horrible things. Oh, she's homeless. You become invisible. But
Yeah.
they don't know the backs. I always say this, Mo. People see you and they see the story before them. They don't get to see the backstory.
The backstory. Yeah.
They don't
If they only knew.
If they only knew. I had a guy who wanted to date me, he said in a kind of smug kind of way. We were talking and I said to him, like, I said, you have no idea what I've been through. He was like, what you been through? He said, oh, I thought you were one of those mainline silver spoon babies.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, excuse me, I was like, you see the story. You see who's standing in front of you as I am today, but you don't see the backstory. You don't see all the steps that I went through to get to be who I am today.
Right.
And people make judgments based on what they see. They don't even consider the backstory. Some people don't even care. But when some people, I had a conversation with a friend and shared some of the things that I've been, and they were crying and they were like, I had no idea. I was like,
yeah,
I know
because
you didn't.
The way you move through life would never allow anybody to even imagine or fathom that you went through even 1/5 of what you went through.
People have
because, like I said, you moved through with grace, and that is it's not the only reason we love you, but that's just one reason why we love you, because
I love you back.
You move through life in a way that I know personally I look up to. I look forward to seeing you and I hate that I haven't seen you and had my home in a long time, but we got to make that happen. But I appreciate you so much. I love you so much for taking the time, and I love seeing what you're doing, and I can't wait to see what you will do.
You my sweetie Kins. And I mean, I've got a lot of stuff on the burner. I signed with a new label, and I have a new,
congratulations.
a new manager.
Okay.
And I'm excited. The new manager actually organized this tour in Africa. New manager. I'll actually be in Marciac in July.
Oh, let me know. Let me know, because I'm pretty free in July, so I will come see you if I can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to be in Marciac. And I mean, just stuff, but I've got a lot of stuff on the burner. And some of that stuff is just, being still and really looking at where I am and where I want to be and where I'm going and how I'm going to move in this piece. So,
well, make sure you send
me,
my dear, make sure you send me the information from RCAC. I'll put that in the show notes so people can come and see and experience what is Miss Denise King. I love you, Mom.
Sure will.
I love
you back, so sweetie Kins, my snookum ookums.
I see. I'll talk to you. Isn't she fascinating? I love to hear the stories of different people, especially someone who's been in the business as long as she has been. And I'm particularly tied to her because I've kind of like adopted her as my auntie, She's also from Philly, so there's that vibe there as well. I can really get down with that. But hearing her story and knowing how she's gotten through adversity and seeing how resilient she is, that really, really speaks to me. But the thing I really like to take away from what she said is how important it is to know your worth every step of the way. Getting through this business is going to depend on how you feel about yourself. On a quick note, I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to be doing a vocal camp, a jazz vocal camp, if you're in the Bordeaux region of France this summer from July 22nd to July 26th. I'm just going to be working with 6 people to help you all get your jazz material together and make it so that by the end of the camp, you can do some extra work and be ready to actually go out there and get some jazz gigs. So if you're interested in that, you can head over to my website at www.moniquethomas.com and go ahead and sign up for the jazz camp. It's 5 days. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Musically, Monique.